I'd been sat staring at the floor for 10 minutes. And suddenly, a hand reached out to me. She just put her hand on mine and said, "Are you okay, dear?" One thing I did know is I didn't want the wins to be lost. Every single time I have a win, I write it down. And I've got a huge list of all the positives that have come out of this experience. Trust in your resilience, use this time to exercise it, and have the faith in yourself that you will get through this. Thanks to a huge group of ordinary people who chose to create extraordinary moments, I'm not just here. I'm more resilient, more confident, and more capable than I've ever been. People made all of that possible. When confronted with my own mortality, there was only one thing I could do. Win. Hey, welcome to the Leaders Podcast with me, Laura MacDonald, the leadership coach and mentor. Come with me as I explore the elements of leadership that give leaders like you the power and confidence to make the impact you know you can. I'll be sharing my own experiences, top tips and insights, and talking to some very special guests to share their thoughts and leadership experiences on mindset, influence, change and growth. So let's get right to it. It's been a long time. At the start of this year, I had a load of guests and episodes lined up for the podcast. I had amazing business plans and personal goals. I had all that I needed in place. And I was planning to celebrate a milestone birthday with a well-earned holiday and time with my family and friends. And then it all came crashing down. I was diagnosed with cancer back in January, and after many scans and discussions amongst my medical teams, I've spent the last 4 months on chemotherapy. Now I'm facing surgery, radiotherapy, and another 8 months of immunotherapy. 5 weeks after I was diagnosed, my wife gave birth to our second son, and we've had a lot of explaining to do to our first son about what's going on. I've kept working in my business throughout to make sure I wasn't sat only with my thoughts for a year, and I've been dealing with side effects of treatment even now as I wait for surgery. This was not the 2026 I imagined. But I've seen something really special. Did I think for a second that this year would be full of trips to the hospital and overwhelming side effects after someone had pumped me full of drugs that no one could touch with their hands? Did I think I'd be facing life-changing surgical decisions and be told I had a year's worth of injections to face? Absolutely not. In the beginning, I had absolutely no idea whether I'd even be here right now. But thanks to a huge group of ordinary people who chose to create extraordinary moments, I'm not just here. I'm more resilient, more confident, and more capable than I've ever been. Leadership is a moment. It can happen anywhere in life, to anyone and from anyone. I'm releasing this episode now because June is my birthday month, the birthday I wasn't sure I'd reach. This is a tribute to all the leadership moments I've seen and all the people who delivered them. Never underestimate the extraordinary power of people. For someone who was passionate about people before, even I had my eyes open to the extraordinary power of people. There was nothing but compassion and empathy from absolutely everybody, and so much intuition of people knowing what you needed to hear or knowing what you needed in that moment. The first experience I had was sitting in the waiting room of oncology, waiting to see my oncologist to find out which plan I'd be on. I had no idea if I was going to get plan A or something else entirely. I'd been sat staring at the floor for 10 minutes, absolutely not moving, not eating like I was supposed to be. It was lunchtime. And suddenly, a hand reached out to me. She just put her hand on mine and said, "Are you okay, dear?" And I turned and saw a woman sat 2 chairs away from me, and without really thinking said, "Yeah, I'm fine, it's just..." And I tried to explain that I was waiting for my plan. I didn't know what was happening. I was right at the beginning of the journey. She then spent 10 minutes explaining to me what she'd just been through. Her chemotherapy experience, her surgery experience, her radiotherapy experience, and that she was finally sat in that oncologist's office waiting for the oncologist to give her the all clear, that she was finally in remission. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What was even more amazing was that I didn't know it yet, but her treatment plan was exactly what I was supposed to be put on, and that's what I did get put on. That small moment of intuition, of knowing that somebody else isn't okay and taking a time out of your journey to make somebody else feel more empowered, more brave, more confident in knowing they could face things, can make the most enormous difference to somebody's life. When I got into chemotherapy suite, I had no idea what to expect. I knew that I'd basically be sat for 4 hours hooked up to an IV machine, letting bags drip into me, but I had no idea what it would feel like. I didn't know if side effects would kick in straight away. I had no idea if I'd have like some sort of skin reaction. I had no idea what to expect. But the chemo staff were absolutely incredible. And on my first session, I met a bunch of staff that I didn't see again, unfortunately. But they did support me through my first journey through chemotherapy. Just taking the time to understand that this was a scary experience, that I had no idea what to expect, and that I was absolutely terrified of needles, meant that they could actually put in place what they needed to put in place for me. They let me have my dad sit with me. They held my hand as I went through the first injection. They made sure I was comfortable all the way throughout. They did whatever they needed to do to make sure that I was okay at the end. Even the woman who did my height and weight in the waiting room the first time I came to oncology approached me with a smile and a laugh, with empathy and understanding. She gave me all the time I needed to process what was happening, have my moments and ask questions. No one pretends they know what you're going through unless they've been there, but you know they've put every effort into trying to understand who you are you need to move forward. Deeper connections are there, and you just have to seize the chance to build them. Cancer opened up the opportunity for deeper connections with people I've known for years. I've always advocated for everyone in my life having the potential to make an impact, but I didn't know how big that impact was. I also couldn't believe how many people reached out to me, not only to tell me they knew someone who'd had cancer, but to tell me they themselves had had cancer. I couldn't believe my ears with some. These are people I've known for years. I too have had many people in my life that have had this terrifying experience, but only then did I realise how deeply connected we all are, and how much we have in common, and how much of that we all miss every day. It's very easy to feel alone in our experiences, but believe me when I say you really will never be alone. A whole world of people, a whole community opens up to you when something like this happens. This experience has forged a lot of new connections too. There was a woman I saw at the clinic when I was first being tested. I saw her again the day I was diagnosed, and again at my next 2 scan appointments. I didn't see her again after that, until I went for my surgical planning meeting, and there she was in the waiting area on my way out the door. We've been, in many ways, in it together from the start and have an understanding that's difficult to describe, and I hope this turns into a lasting friendship. She was a stranger, yet made the time to stop and talk to me, and I to her every time we saw each other. When I saw her again at my surgeon's office, it was a feeling of absolute joy to know she was okay, and a strong bond with her that we'd both come out of the other side of chemotherapy intact and ready for the next bit. We'd done this apart, but in some ways we'd done it together. This mutual support and solidarity builds strength, determination and resilience, knowing we're not doing it alone. We have a community. I won't speak for anybody else I know, I can only speak for myself. But what I have experienced is a profound psychological growth and a clarity that's hard to explain. It wasn't intentional, but I sat in front of the bell the first time I sat in oncology. It shocked me into the reality I was facing, but at the same time, I've never been so clear on a goal in all my life. And to follow that, my oncologist gave me the strongest faith and trust in her from our first meeting that she knew what she was doing and that she would do everything in her power to support me through this. I've never been so convinced by anyone in my life. And as I read more about her, I realised how passionate, committed and deeply personally connected she is to what she does. She purposefully creates in her patients that faith and trust in her because she knows how much it matters. That goal of ringing that first bell would certainly never have been reached in the same way if it hadn't been for that moment of leadership from one of the 2 most important people in my medical team. The other important person is my surgeon. He got the crap end of the deal. He was the one who had to tell me I had cancer. That conversation is not the way I'm choosing to remember this experience. But I have reflected on it, not just from my own point of view, but also from his. The burden placed on him and others like him in those meetings is horrendous. Not only was he giving me the worst news in my life, but there was a limit on how much he could tell me. There were more tests to do. Sometimes the weight we place on other people's shoulders is unimaginable, especially certain leaders. It makes me wonder how surgeons support themselves after conversations like this. It can never be easy watching someone's world crumble knowing you're the one that delivered the news. But he gave me time, as much as I needed to hear what he had to say. When I saw him again from my surgical planning meeting, I was placed in the same room he had told me that I had cancer, and I was having a little internal panic. But then he came in, we had a chat about surgery, and he gave me some good news that brought us one huge step closer to winning this thing altogether. That turned my memory of that room from one of despair to one of hope and belief. I said from the beginning, this is a siege, not a battle, and that surgeon with that horrendous job at the beginning is leading the charge. He may have delivered devastating news, but he's also the person who supported me to determine how I want to live the rest of my life, and is doing everything in his skill set to make sure I can have it. I so often talk about leadership not being a job title, but an art, one that inspires others to act. A stranger sitting next to you that can move you from total overwhelm to determination in as little as 10 minutes. A doctor that can connect with you and make you want to trust not just their expertise, but their character. A surgeon that can turn a moment of devastation into a moment of hope. A person whose journey joins your own and embraces it to create an unspoken bond. That is the extraordinary power of people. If this lesson wasn't reinforced before, it is now. Mindset is everything. The last few months have been absolute chaos. The appointments, the travelling, the hospital stays, the repeated blood tests, the medication regimes at home and elsewhere, it's absolutely horrendous. As someone who really struggles with needles, the idea of facing 61 of them before we even got to surgery was overwhelming. The idea of chemotherapy was overwhelming too. Media teaches us to think a certain way about what it's like, and the reality is that for the great majority of people, it's not like that. But I didn't know that to begin with. Like so many other times in life, it's so easy to get pulled into thinking, everything is going wrong, it's all such a terrible, challenging, difficult time for me, how can I possibly cope with this? Or the hardest yet most common question, why is this happening to me? Believe me when I say I've been right there, and not just recently. There are plenty of times in my own leadership, in my coaching, in my business ownership, as a parent, as a wife, as a friend, as a family member, and elsewhere in my personal life where I've thought all these things and more. We all do this sometimes. You are 100% not alone. And while that may offer you some comfort, what I do know is it's not enough. What you need next is responses to all of the above. So if you are having these thoughts for any reason, here's what you can do. If you're thinking everything is going wrong, the first thing is to recognize that everything is a big word. That means everything, right down to whether you ate your lunch without spilling it and walked to your car this morning without falling flat on your face and smashing your nose. There are lots of things that are going right. They might seem small and insignificant to you, but they matter. Acknowledge them all by writing them down, every last little thing you can think of. When I started this journey, I had no idea how I wanted to go through it. But one thing I did know is I didn't want the wins to be lost. I started a note on my phone, and it's still going now. Every single time I have a win, whether it's to do with this cancer journey or my family or anything else in my life, I write it down. And I've got a huge list of all the positives that have come out of this experience. Recognizing those things lets me see that far more good is coming out of this experience than bad. Acknowledging that not everything is going wrong, that actually only a few things are going wrong, is really, really vital. It's all such a terrible, challenging, difficult time for me. Believe me, I've said this a million times, right? Given that I'm sat in this very position right now, I can tell you I totally understand. So the first thing you're getting is an empathetic smile. But again, knowing that you're not alone is not enough. What I know beyond all doubt is the goal is to make it less of a terrible, challenging and difficult time for yourself. Lean into your strengths, embrace what's happening, and start problem solving, and put the structure and support you need in place to overcome it. As you can probably gather, chemotherapy is not smooth sailing at all. They start with 100% maximum tolerable dose for any human being and see how you get on. If it's too much, they lower it. In round 1 and 2, this was really, really hard. I was still on 100% dose. But as long as I was coping with it and still at home and still able to do stuff, then they weren't going to lower the dose. However, we did have an episode and that forced the dose to be lowered as of round 3. And that made life more copable, but it also meant that I could pay more attention to my side effects. So I could learn about them. I could learn when they were going to occur, what days they would appear on, how harsh they would be, when the worst days would be, what I could do about them, what eased symptoms. Just simple things like chemotherapy completely destroys your taste buds. So what was going to battle through those and make me want to eat food? It was figuring out what moisturizer was right for my skin. It was figuring out what toothpaste I could tolerate. It was figuring out how the hell do I get to 2.5 litres of water a day, because that's how much you have to drink. Finding ways through all of these things was really, really important. And actually finding ways through all those things meant that I had a lot less of a challenging time with it in future rounds. Every round got better and better. Yes, there was a cumulative effect, but ultimately I knew how to manage it, so it was bearable, tolerable, and I could get through my daily life. If you're thinking, how can I possibly cope with all this? Once again, I completely understand. But the answer is not on your own. Lean into your resources, your network, your peers, your seniors, and proactively put the support you need in place to manage all of this. No one is going to do this for you. This is on you. Trust in your resilience, use this time to exercise it, and have the faith in yourself that you will get through this. I leaned into my support network more than I've ever had to ask for support in my entire life in the first 2 months of this journey. We had absolutely everybody round this house every single day, finishing my office and putting stuff in place so that people could sleep over if needed, and setting up the systems that meant we could carry on with our lives. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of effort, it was a lot of time, it was a lot of people. But once we got to the end of it, all that effort slowed down and everything was running smoother. The same could be said of my business. I started leaning more on my virtual assistant. I started asking for help from the training providers I work with. I started asking for help from people everywhere so that I could make sure that my business didn't have to be a mission that required too much effort throughout this journey. That's how you cope with it. Lean into your network. Don't do this on your own. And the hardest question of all, why is this happening to me? In a lot of cases, this one takes a little more acceptance of that for which we have no physical evidence and cannot see in measurement, because often it is absolute, complete and total 100% unadulterated shit bad luck. But in many circumstances, some good problem solving will help you find root causes so this never happens again. But the most important thing either way is to move your mindset from why and self-blame to what and proactive, energizing development and growth. What can I learn from this? It's not always easy, and that question of why is this happening to me appeared very early in this cancer journey, and it just so happened to come out right in front of my oncologist. If I hadn't had that moment, she wouldn't have given me the absolute unadulterated, complete and total 100% shit bad luck answer. And if I hadn't heard that, I certainly wouldn't have moved on to what can I do? What can I learn? Where can I go? How can I help this? How can I make sure that I get past this? Mindset is everything. I thought I was pretty good at this until we got to January. Ask for what you need to face life head on. One of the reasons I'm so grateful for the people surrounding me is the advice they gave me in the beginning. One of my friends who had also been through this told me she got into treatment only 18 days after diagnosis because she said yes to everything. I did the same and was in on day 21. Had it not been for a delay in the scan results, this may have been sooner. This was my only opportunity to get ahead of this thing, and I took it. I made fast decisions about all the things I could still control, knowing there was little time for me to do it, and I went into my first day of chemo not knowing what to expect, but knowing how to handle it, by asking directly for what I needed when I needed it, even if all I needed was the housekeeper to hold my hand during an injection, and the housekeeper at my chemo suite was a legend. You see, in this process there are no stupid questions, there is no such thing as a silly request. And no one sees you as weak when you tell them things are not good. They see you as stronger for knowing what you need and trying to get it. They can support you better when you tell them something is wrong because they want to fix it. They don't want you to suffer through this. That's not the point of doing all this. They want you to have the best quality of life you can through this. To recover from symptoms as fast and well as you can. Be able to play with your kids, work if you want to work, see friends when you want to see friends. They want you to live, not just exist. So I took every opportunity to face this, and I've been doing exactly that with other areas of my life since then. When you see an opportunity to take advantage of, whether that's an experience, something to enhance your quality of life, something you always wished you could do but didn't for whatever reason, or even just the chance to take control of a situation you have no choice but to face, take it. Being proactive means not waiting for things to happen to you, but making them happen for yourself. There is one other opportunity you can take, and that's to enhance the experiences of others. Every single person in my journey, whether part of my medical team or otherwise, made it completely safe and okay to ask for help, to express challenges and uncertainties, and to try things for myself. This wasn't about getting it perfect either. There was room for mistakes, and I made one that contributed to me landing in hospital. But my oncologist trusted me to learn the lesson, and I did. She put ownership in my hands by giving me the information I needed, and most importantly, the why behind it all. When I went into the department for the first time, I was greeted by receptionists and nurses with friendliness, humour, compassion and empathy. These actions might seem small, but they slowly dismantled a daunting experience I did not want to have into one I knew I could face. When I started talking to the care team and my surgeon about my options, they gave me the time and patience I needed to gather information and get a thorough understanding, and gave me the sources independent of them to start researching and talking to others. They gave me the meetings I asked for and endorsed a request I knew would make my quality of life following this experience better. They did whatever they could to lift me up, helped me lean into my love of learning, and became curious with me so I felt I was heard. They created every opportunity for me to ask the questions I needed to ask and helped me find the answers. The thing about this system is that support is there for every patient, despite the fact that there are thousands of patients. Even the busiest professionals in my journey have got back to me every time within 24 hours, and they've kept as much control in my hands as they could have possibly managed, because they know it's about my experience of cancer, and how I come out of this isn't just about whether the cancer's cured. It's about who I become, how I'm able to manage the processing of the experience, and how I feel about the next version of me. Most importantly, whether I feel I'm working with them in the experience or feeling left on the outside of the room while everyone else talks about me. A lot of this might sound familiar to you. It's all the things your team members want from you: as much autonomy as possible so they can plan their own days and tasks, the psychological safety to tell you when they've made a mistake or when they need help, and the support from you to make the quality of their experience in the team the best it can be, so they grow and become the next versions of themselves feeling good about that fact. And I have no doubt that's what you want from your leaders too. So your responsibility is to ask for what you need when you need it. I have from day one in my cancer journey, and I'm so much better able to make my own decisions, weigh in on discussions, and contribute to and manage my own treatment plan as a result. I've become in many areas self-sufficient, meaning my medical team can still expect the odd question here and there, but I will take away whatever they've told me or given me and action it myself. And if I'm struggling, they know I'll ask for help. This is a team effort with a goal of curing me of cancer, so my voice needed to be heard from day one. Small acts of purposeful kindness are noticed. The woman in the waiting room who asked if I was okay didn't think she'd be coming into the waiting room to comfort me. She was there for her own reasons. But I'll remember that moment forever. Grace, wherever you are, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. There have been plenty of other moments of purposeful kindness. When I finished chemotherapy, I was given information for a charity that were paying for a night away for me and my wife in a decent hotel, with dinner and breakfast included. A small act of kindness geared exactly towards what they knew we would need: rest and time with each other. It wasn't just any old voucher to any old hotel either. It was a purposefully chosen, peaceful hotel with meals included, so it cost us nothing and we didn't have to cook. It's so easy to give vouchers, especially as rewards at work. But when they're for exactly what that person needs in that moment, that's when they're truly valued by the person receiving them. Speaking of work, you know the kindest thing my colleagues and clients did? They said, "We'll be led by you." And they were. I was adamant I wanted to keep on working throughout. And the other companies I work with, the people I support, and the people that support my business have all supported me to do that. 2 clients even had their coaching sessions rescheduled because of the birth of our second son. I continued teaching full-day workshops from the day after diagnosis, seeing clients from a month after, and have continued assessing people's qualifications throughout chemotherapy because I knew not working would be far worse. And I am fortunate to have the colleagues and clients I do, because they understood how important this was to me and flexed to make it work for us all. The most meaningful gifts I've received are the things I could use: moisturiser for the skin that would inevitably get damaged, fresh herbal tea leaves that gave me a hot drink to replace my lifelong obsession with builder's tea that I could no longer drink. And the best one was a box of my favourite sweets accompanied by Lego flowers that I could build. When you get a diagnosis like this, your family and friends want to help, so they send things. And most people sent me something that would help me on the journey, or something that spoke to who I am and what I love. Small acts of purposeful kindness. At our first meeting, my oncologist gave me all the time and space I needed to work through the reality check I was having at that very moment. She made sure I understood the plan, and then before I left, she stood up and, without saying a word, gave me a hug. She didn't need to say anything. She knew I needed a hug. Small acts of purposeful kindness. I want to be absolutely clear that this journey has been nothing short of the most difficult, exhausting, and chaotic experience of my life. That these small acts of kindness have given me boosts when I hit my lowest points, a starting point for managing side effects of treatment, and the power to let go when I most needed to. This whole episode has been about my experience of leadership from others, but the most important, most impactful thing all of this did was to empower me to receive the most important act of small, purposeful kindness from myself. I've been told many times, and have told many others, be kind to yourself. But never before have I needed to be so kind to myself. My energy and mindset have been challenged every day since all of this started. But what I didn't want to happen was whole days to be written off because of moments. Nor did I want all the wins to go unacknowledged. So I knew I needed to treat every day as a fresh start. Know where I could go for support if I needed it to make sure moments stayed moments, and find the good in every experience. Being kind to myself has made sure that I've been able to learn, process, and act on what I needed to. But to be kind to myself, I needed small acts of purposeful kindness from others to show me it was okay. I missed doing the podcast. I knew I wanted to do some episodes throughout this journey, but I seriously questioned whether to put this episode out there. But then I thought about how others have shared their cancer journeys. I've seen a lot of people go into great detail about the procedures, the appointments, the scans, and so on. I've seen people detail their side effects and their recovery, and I've personally discovered so much information about all of this and spoken to others with similar experiences to mine. I asked myself how I wanted to share this journey, and the ultimate answer was, with people at the centre. This was never a battle for me. This is a seed, and it's still going to be a really hard and long year. But I'm choosing to remember this experience my way, full of wins, accomplishments, and moments of pure joy. And when I need something, all I have to do is ask for it. People made all of that possible. What opened my eyes most was how little understanding I truly had of what having cancer would be like. Not everyone's journey is like mine, but many people work, go to the gym, continue their hobbies, and carry on with life all the way throughout treatment. For me, it hasn't been the bedridden experience I thought it might be. What it was, and continues to be, is life-changing. This episode doesn't have a real title because there are no words that could ever convey this experience accurately. And when confronted with my own mortality, there was only one thing I could do: win. So that's what I'm going to do now. Until next time, everyone. And there will be a next time.